tonight. Tough conversations and emotional pleas as Regina City councillors continue to debate next year's proposed budget. Also, as food prices soar, the Regina Food Bank prepares to hand out 2,500 Christmas hampers.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, December 15th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for watching. Deliberations on Regina's city budget continued today. There is a split as council attempts to balance a desire to create an affordable city with calls to address issues such as homelessness. Alexandra Kwan reports.
Ask again, how do you sleep at night? Because this keeps me up at night.
In front of them, a proposal that recommends a 4.6% mill rate increase for each of the next 2 years. That translates to about $9 in extra taxes for the average homeowner every year. Organizations and residents shared their views on what they'd like to see in the budget. Some councillors said the figures are still too high.
We have senior citizens worried about being put out of their home because of high taxation. We have families that are struggling to put food on the table. That is a primary consideration as I go into the budget deliberation.
Some tough decisions will have to be made, and not everyone will get their wish. Dozens of residents signed up to call on councillors to address homelessness. So many people showed up that a special lunch was organized. They say this level of support is proof of how important the issue is.
There's huge benefits in terms of the amount that are saved in terms of our healthcare system, our family support systems, our justice system. So in the long term, we see it as actually a fiscally and financially responsible thing to do, as well as the morally and socially correct thing to do.
But it's not clear if council will address the issue of homelessness in the way many are calling for. It is not an item in the budget, and some councillors say the federal and provincial governments need to pitch in while Regina coordinates a response. Councillor Dan LeBlanc says he's still trying to get homelessness back in the budget, and it sounds like he'll have some support.
Given the fact that if we look at the mill rate increase, the police service is dominating how much we are willing to tax. It's a concern, yes, but I've heard it on council every year.
But with affordability the word of the day at council and other councillors looking to cut any increases to taxes, they may be facing an uphill battle. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
All the recent snow has the province reminding drivers to watch out for snow plows and give them space. The Ministry of Highways says collisions with plows are on the rise this season. These big machines are usually out in the worst kinds of weather. They can also create swirling snow, reducing visibility for drivers behind them. Mark Holoka has been an operator for 5 years, and he says plows don't have the same safety sensors as cars, and they have huge blind spots.
We're not always going to be able to see you guys. We don't want things like these pictures to happen, right? It makes us feel terrible when that happens, and we don't want to see anybody get hurt. So, the more that we can get out about road safety and the safety of our jobs, the better.
It should be easy to spot Holoka and others at work. Their vehicles use blue and amber lights when plowing, salting, or sanding. The government also urges drivers to check the highway hotline before traveling to avoid closed roads and dangerous conditions. And the snow does continue to fall in Regina this hour. Our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, is here with an update. How much has dropped in our province so far?
Well, a bit hard to tell with all the wind, Sam, but we do have some preliminary numbers from the past couple of days. As of this morning, Regina picking up about 5 centimeters. Vibank just to our southeast around 10. Same in Merrifield near the Manitoba border. And in fact, just across the border in Virden, they picked up about 12. But the system really packing a punch to our south in Watford City, North Dakota, over 20 centimeters there. Enough snow in Regina to activate snow routes. They are in effect starting tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. until Saturday at 6 a.m. And the bulk of the snow may now be gone, but that doesn't mean our wintry weather is coming to an end. As winter officially begins next week, we will see another issue emerge.
There's a big Arctic high poised up in Alaska to come down, and I think we'll see a blast of Arctic air, and we may even see some record-setting pressures. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
So Terry has warned us. Sam, just how cold is it going to get? I'll have the details coming up a little bit later.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Saskatoon is officially home to a 9th urban reserve. Pelican Lake First Nations chief held a special signing with the mayor and police commissioner chair at City Hall yesterday. The urban reserve is located on George Avenue in the exhibition area. Pelican Lake has also bought into the Adams lumber business at that location. Chief Peter Bill says the lumber business complements Pelican Lake's other forestry interests.
By respecting us and inviting us with open arms to your city. That is how we begin to work together.
After the signing, and recently refurbished Adams lumber sign was lit up for the first time in 10 years. We're learning more tonight about a fatal robbery this spring in Saskatoon. 5 teens were charged with second-degree murder in connection with the death of a 27-year-old man. Now, some of those charges have been dropped, and a 14-year-old pleaded guilty to robbery. Dan Zakreski brings us the story.
His name is Shadane Favel, and after he died, his grandmother said he deserved more than what the world gave him. The 27-year-old was killed back in April after getting shot in this alley. What happened that early spring morning is emerging in court. 5 teens were originally charged with second-degree murder. Security cameras at the hospital show 4 teens confronting a man with a bike around 6:30 in the morning. They take a shot at him, but he manages to run to safety inside the hospital. Then they steal his bike. A few minutes later, the 4 teens are joined by another young man in this alley behind Prairie Harm Reduction. Now they encounter Shadane Favel, who is shot by one of the teens. Now Favel manages to run to 20th Street where he flags down a police officer. He's taken to hospital, but dies 6 hours later. On Wednesday, a 14-year-old pleaded guilty to robbery in connection with the bike theft. He was sentenced to 15 months. 2 of the other teens who are still charged with murder are due in court next week. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The federal government has introduced legislation intended to address a problem caused by the Indian Act, which was first introduced in 1876. It has effectively stripped thousands of Indigenous people of their First Nation status. Olivia Stefanovic shows us how the legislation has affected one family with Indigenous roots and what they are doing about it.
This is my daughter, Melanie.
Catherine Fournier says she raised her 3 children to value their Anishinaabe culture. But in the eyes of the federal government, they aren't First Nations people.
The possibility that somehow Canada could acknowledge that wrong and then agree to right that wrong is a huge, huge achievement.
A century ago, her grandfather, a member of Penamutang First Nation in Manitoba, gave up his status through an assimilation policy known as enfranchisement in order to own property and vote.
He wanted very much to be part of the democratic process, which, as it existed in Canada 100 years ago, actively tried to deny him the most basic rights.
Fournier is one of 16 plaintiffs who filed a constitutional challenge last year to change the Indian status registration.
Introduction of government bills.
Instead of fighting in court, the Indigenous Services Minister tabled proposed legislation to restore status to approximately 3,500 people.
Indian Act is a colonial racist piece of legislation.
It's been a long road to get here.
The plaintiff's lawyer says their constitutional challenge is on hold as they wait for Bill C-38 to become law.
I hope that for all the faults remaining in the Indian Act, people can get behind this piece of legislation.
The goal was very clear. That was to eradicate this particular population.
Fournier was able to regain her status through previous changes, but she still couldn't pass her status onto the next generation.
For my children, now they can hold up that part of their identity, saying, this is who I am.
A way for them to reclaim that identity and keep it from being erased again. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa. This holiday season will be very different for many people in Saskatchewan.
specifically Ukrainian newcomers who arrived earlier this year. But as Pratush Dayal reports, a lot of them are being welcomed with open arms.
I think every Ukrainian family like borscht.
Natalia Semiboroda loves to make borscht. She says it reminds her of her home country and childhood memories. But now, when she thinks of Ukraine, she recalls air raid sirens blaring and rushing into the basement cellar. And that's especially tough this holiday season.
We can't celebrate like usually because our old friends lives in Ukraine, and the situation is so difficult for Ukrainian people, and my heart is on my friends.
But Semiboroda says she is thankful to the people in Saskatoon who have supported through community donations, including this Christmas tree. Others have found an extended family at work. Olina Tarasenko and Olina Selesnova Mekichuk were school teachers back in Ukraine before arriving in Saskatoon this fall. Now they're helping other newcomers resettle.
The pink ones, they are stuffed with blueberries, the local berries.
The pair recently cooked some of the 12 traditional Ukrainian Christmas dinner dishes, including pierogies and winter salads for the colleagues. They say last Christmas was full of joy, happiness and hope, with family and friends around.
We didn't know that on February 24th this will happen, so we were just making our plans for previous future year, and we were making a wish and together with our families.
And cooking traditional dishes helps keep their memories alive.
It brings the sweetest moments from your childhood, your mom's home, the smell, the taste, everything. And it actually brings us back home. Only now I can appreciate and just value those precious moments I spent with my family, all my family members.
Between March 17 and December 6, Canada received almost 725,000 applications from Ukrainian nationals and their family members. Of those, more than 450,000 have been approved, and 3,000 of them are living here in Saskatchewan. Vlad Ternovsky is one of them. He says he's relieved to be safe in Canada with his family, but he is worried for everyone back home. This year will be special because they will celebrate Christmas, cooking traditional dishes with the women who hosted them. The family meal begins with the 3 morsels of kucha to mark the birth of Christ, with just one hope in their prayers: a safer and war-free Ukraine.
If the war will stop, for example, tomorrow, yes, we will get immediately back to Ukraine.
Ternovsky, like others, is also hopeful that he and his family will be able to celebrate next Christmas back with his family and friends in a free Ukraine. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, it's certainly beginning to look a lot like Christmas. It is still snowing in southern Saskatchewan, but it sure makes the grounds around Regina's Wascana Lake, including the Saskatchewan legislature, look awfully pretty. Ethan will have more on what's to come in weather in his forecast after the break. Stay with us. 'Tis the season for giving, and as inflation continues to play a role in food security, it is also affecting donations at the Regina Food Bank. While monetary donations are a little bit lower than this time last year, the number of people they've had donate money is actually higher. I caught up with its CEO to check in ahead of the holidays.
What we're seeing is a mix of things. I think folks are acutely aware of what food insecurity feels like, whether it's their own ability to look at sort of prices in the supermarket or even supply chain things that sort of leave shelves empty. I think that's giving people a sense of what it is, and actually maybe instead of donating the food, the can of tuna they would, they'll donate $5, $10, $15. So that's sort of engaging more folks. And this time of year we have sort of a one-time event, which would be the affordability checks that have gone out, and we're seeing a number of those come in, and folks actually marking off that they're sort of passing this along because they're in a position to do so, and they want to make sure they're helping their neighbors in need. So I think those two factors are driving more of those monetary donations, and again, it sort of counterbalances the fact that folks are just not able to donate or choosing not to donate as much food. All gifts are meaningful because they come from a place of wanting to support. So the amounts don't have to be huge. $10 with our processes and our buying power can provide up to 30 meals, and you can be part of providing a week's worth of food to someone. So small amounts help a ton. We're just actually prepping our holiday hampers for distribution into the community. So the first sets of hampers are actually going to go out on Sunday, and then they'll continue to be distributed through next week as we sort of get those out, in addition to sort of the normal food delivery services that we have 12 months a year. For the holiday hampers, demand has stayed pretty steady year over year. We're going to be right around that 2,500 hampers mark again, which is a little bit different than the sort of normal use, which has gone up exponentially again this year. So we'll be well north of 140,000 visits this year, which is about 15% up from last year.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. 22 model clear out is on now.
Ethan Williams joins me now with a look at your forecast, or shall I call it the snowcast?
Yeah, snow still falling at this hour in portions of southern Saskatchewan, and let's take a look at radar right now, and you can see why. The backside of this Colorado low still moving through portions of North Dakota. In fact, they could still see a few inches in some places, and that is spilling into extreme southeastern sections of the province tonight. And this thing really just continues to churn. It's still got a lot of energy, still snow through the U.S. Midwest, thunderstorms in the Florida Peninsula, some snow up the eastern seaboard of the rain rather up the eastern seaboard of the United States. Interior northeast of the U.S. starting to get snow, the GTA as well. Warnings now in Quebec. Everyone, just about everyone, impacted by this system. In southeastern Saskatchewan tonight, we'll continue to see that snow move in. For the rest of us, progressively clearer and cooler as you go northwest from there. Some places in south and central feeling wind chills around -30 tonight. The north staying mostly clear until our next system starts to move in tomorrow afternoon. And it's going to affect mostly western portions of the province. The northwest tomorrow afternoon, moving to the southwest. And this is another kind of multi-day snow event. Not a ton of precipitation, but over these next few days, we will continue to see that system stick around probably until about Monday or so before that finally clears out. In terms of snowfall amounts, again, tonight, Estevan, far southeastern sections could get around 5 centimeters, really not much more for anyone else. And then as we head through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, western sections, including Val-Marie, Swift Current up toward Kindersley, Lloydminster, North Battleford, maybe in that anywhere between 5 and 15 centimeter range. The eastern sections of the province really not getting all that much from this system. For the north of the province, it's the western sections getting it tomorrow afternoon and early Saturday morning, and really close to 10 centimeters in places like Meadow Lake and Buffalo Narrows and Isle La Crosse. Now, in terms of wind gusts, still breezy where that low is impacting in southeastern sections tonight, maybe gusts to around 50 kilometers an hour, starting to dissipate through the afternoon tomorrow. And then as that next system moves in, we're not expecting gusts to really be all that strong, at least not as strong as the Colorado low. With these next couple of systems, we are watching visibility drop specifically in the southeast tonight, possibly some visibility less than a kilometer at times. And then as that next system moves in, could drop visibility on western sides of the province. And then the cold moves in. Past couple of days, I've been showing you this, and I just want to show you again because this trough really builds in through much of Canada after this high pressure moves out. And it's going to continue to descend southward, and temperatures are just going to continue to drop. And that descent begins in Regina tomorrow as daytime highs will get into that mid-minus teens range. And temperatures, daytime highs getting dangerously close to -30. Overnight lows, though, shouldn't drop too incredibly low, at least in the lead up to Christmas here. Saskatoon, again, that temperature drop very similar as well. Again, about 5 centimeters of snow with that system on Saturday. The good news, though, Sam, is it looks like as we get right to around Christmas Day, that cold is going to recede, so just in time for the holidays.
That's great, because that literally took my breath away.
Yes, very, very cold indeed.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Well, this is adorable. A rare porcupine in BC is poking its way into the hearts of many people on social media. This albino porcupine was found in a barn near Smithers, BC, hungry and looking for protection from the cold. The barn owners called a wildlife rescue center, who took him in and decided to keep him over the winter. They have named him Coconut, Coco for short, and he's said to be doing well. We'll be back after the break.
Make the season kind. For the month of December, CBC is supporting those in need through food banks of Saskatchewan. Visit cbc.ca/BeKindSK to find out how you can make the season kind.
Accusations are flying in the final 3 installments of the Netflix series Harry and Meghan, released today. The couple blames palace aides for planting negative stories about them, and Prince Harry accuses his brother, Prince William, of screaming at him at a family crisis meeting. Chris Brown has more.
In Harry and Meghan's telling of it, their royal fairy tale soured just months after their wedding in 2018.
The issue is when someone who's marrying in, who should be a supporting act, is then stealing the limelight or is doing the job better than the person who was born to do this.
Harry claims staff working for his brother Prince William and his wife Catherine, the future king and queen, leak stories to embarrass Meghan and undermine her popularity. That fed a media frenzy, which she claims led to thoughts of suicide.
All of this will stop if I'm not here. And that was the scariest thing about it, is it was such clear thinking.
I didn't deal with it particularly well.
While Harry accepts some blame for not doing enough to help his wife, he accuses William, his father Charles, who's now king, and the rest of the palace of abandoning them.
It was terrifying to have my brother scream and shout at me and my father say things that just simply weren't true.
The couple spoke fondly of their brief stay on Vancouver Island.
You could breathe for a minute.
Until paparazzi caught up with them and they fled again to California, where they're trying to build a post-royal life.
A huge missed opportunity.
This royal commentator says while the breakdown of the brothers' relationship is a tragedy, damage to the broader royal family from the Netflix revelations will be limited.
This, they're talking about media intrusion, which is themes we've had before. Talking about the abuse leveled against them, we've heard these things before, they're just fleshing it out.
Some Londoners said they just felt sad over so many broken relationships.
Yeah, I don't think anything will ever change. Racism just can't change.
I think generally since the death of the Queen, it's just been looking not great for the monarchy.
How many do you like eggs? There has been no response from the royal family, nor likely will there be. Instead, they appear to be stressing it's business as usual. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
And Ethan is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
And getting progressively cooler in Regina overnight, Sam. By the time we get to tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., minus 18. But those northwest gusts close to 50, making it feel like minus 30. So chilly morning out the door. By noon, we've warmed up a little bit. Gusts still pretty breezy until we hit about mid-afternoon. Saskatoon, a mix of sun and cloud, winds much lighter. Temperature around the same, though, at around minus 18, but not too much of a wind chill. And then as we head to the noon hour, we're looking for a mix of sun and cloud around minus 14. That's about where we'll stay for our daytime high. Winds remaining fairly light throughout the afternoon. Now, Deborah McEwen, she does a really cool thing. She takes photos of wildlife and makes them a little bit festive. And she's taken a photo of an owl here, put a Santa hat on it, and she'd like to remind us, Sam, only 10 days until Christmas, but we'll have lots more of these photos throughout the next few days.
I can't wait. That's so cute. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/Sask or /Saskatoon, or you can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn, Reed, and Ethan will be back with more local news and weather at 11. Thank you for watching, and have a great night.